We've changed the will. Mateo gets everything, my mother announced coldly. Then let Mateo take care of the bills too, I replied, as I canceled all the payments. They left me out of their future, so I let their electricity get cut off for a whole week. My name is Iker, I'm 34 years old, and until recently, I believed I had a strong bond with my parents. I never imagined something so drastic could happen so suddenly, much less such a shocking truth that would turn my whole world upside down. My entire life, I was taught that family came before everything. It wasn't just something my parents said occasionally, it was a rule in our house. They repeated it over and over, and I truly believed it. It didn't just apply to important days like Christmas or birthdays. It meant always being there. If my parents needed something, I was there. When they went through tough times financially, I helped. I did my part to be the kind of son who always put family first. Because of all that, I thought that when it came time to make important decisions, like the will or future plans, I would be included. But I wasn't. It all started one night when I got home from work. Lately, I had been feeling exhausted trying to balance my job, friends, and all the household chores. So, when I saw an email from my mother saying she wanted to talk, I didn't think it was a big deal. The subject line said important talk, but the message was different. She asked me to come over the next day to talk about some family matters. Of course, I called her right away to ask what was going on. "Hi, is everything okay?" I asked, trying to ignore the heavy feeling in my chest. She paused. "Yes, everything's fine. Just come over." But I couldn't shake that strange feeling. Something wasn't right. The next day, I arrived at my parents' house around noon. My mother greeted me with her usual kind face, but there was something strange. She seemed stiff. My father was on the couch, but he barely spoke, which wasn't normal for him. We sat at the kitchen table, and the atmosphere became tense. After a long silence, my mother finally spoke. "Iker, we need to talk about something serious," she said with excessive calm, as if preparing to give me bad news. "Okay, what's going on?" I asked. She let out a long sigh, looked at my father, and then back at me. "We've changed the will. We've made some decisions." For some reason, my heart started pounding. Something wasn't right. I tried to stay calm, but I felt the nerves climbing up my back. "What? Is everything okay?" I said. "We're just doing what we think is smartest," she replied in a firmer tone. "We've decided to leave everything to your brother, Mateo." The air seemed to freeze. "What? What do you mean everything? You're giving everything to Mateo?" She nodded without looking me in the eye. "Yes, Iker, we talked about it, and we think it's best. He'll get the house, the savings, everything we've worked for." My thoughts raced. I couldn't even process it. I always believed that family meant I would be included. I thought I mattered too. My mother shook her head. "Iker, we've always tried to do right by you, but lately, Mateo has been the most consistent. He's more present, and we think it's time to give him priority." My hands started to tremble. "More consistent? Are you serious?" "I've helped pay bills, I've done the shopping, and so much more for years. I've always been there. And Mateo? What has he done?" My father finally said something, his voice softer than usual. "Iker, we're just trying to be realistic. Mateo is the one who will take care of everything later on. He has the time and the tools. It seems the most sensible thing to do." "This doesn't make sense," I said, raising my voice even though I was trying to stay calm. "I've been with you through everything. You can't just push me aside like this." There was a prolonged silence, and I felt the weight of that pause. My mother's expression seemed slightly regretful, but not enough to comfort me. I stood up abruptly. The chair screeched as it scraped across the floor. I felt my breathing quicken. "I don't understand what's wrong with you," I said, "but this isn't what it means to be family." As I turned to leave, I heard my father say, "Iker, please think about it." But I didn't want to think. I was burning with rage. My mind was racing, and I didn't know how to manage all the emotions building up inside me. How could they treat me like this? How could they turn their backs on me after everything I'd done? During the following weeks, I couldn't stop feeling like something wasn't right. I replayed the will in my head, how they had given everything to Mateo, and how they acted like I didn't matter. It felt like a betrayal. That's when I decided to do something. At first, it wasn't about revenge. It was about standing my ground, about showing them that I wasn't going to accept being treated that way. I had been covering some of their expenses, paying for things like electricity and water, and I realized I wasn't going to keep helping if there wasn't a place for me in their plans. So I stopped. I stopped paying their bills. I thought, if they don't care about how I feel anymore, why should I care if they have electricity? A month went by. I barely heard from them, just brief messages asking how I was doing. Nothing personal, nothing to show they were sorry. Then one afternoon, I received a message from my mother. "Why don't we have electricity?" My heart started pounding as I read those words. I felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. My decision had had an effect, but at the same time, I felt a cold knot in my stomach. Was this really what I wanted? Did I want them to feel what I felt? Did I want to see them struggle? I didn't answer immediately. I stared at the screen for a long time. The message blinked, waiting for my reply. Finally, I wrote, "I thought Mateo was taking care of everything. Maybe you should talk to him." Then I put my phone aside and allowed the silence to grow between us. I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had regained control. The following days passed slowly, one after another, as if dragging the weight of everything that had happened. I replayed that day in my mind, wondering if I had made the right decision. A part of me wanted to apologize or explain things better, but then I remembered what they had told me, that I wasn't part of their future, and I got angry again. The truth is, I was hurt. I was in pain, and above all, I was tired of always being the one who cared first. The silence was deafening. A few days later, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone when another message from my mother arrived. This time it was longer. "Iker, this has gone too far. We need to talk. I don't understand why you're doing this. We're your parents. You can't treat us like this." I didn't wait. My hands floated over the screen, and then I wrote, "Maybe you should have thought about that before leaving me out. I'm not the one who owes explanations." I put the phone aside. The weight of my response hit me. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't back down. It was done. A few more days passed. The phone remained silent. No new messages. No calls. Nobody tried to fix anything. It seemed like they had given up trying. But still, I kept waiting. A part of me believed that they couldn't just let me go without trying to fix things. Then, one Thursday afternoon, the phone vibrated. I didn't need to look. I already knew who it was. My mother's name glowed on the screen. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I took a deep breath and answered the call. "Hello, Iker," my mother began, her tone soft and low. "I'm not sure what you expect from us, but we're your family. We've always tried to do right by you, even if it wasn't what you wanted." Her words trembled slightly, and for a moment, I felt some compassion. But I quickly closed that door. This was the same person who had told me I wasn't trustworthy enough to be left anything. I wasn't going to fall for that again. "I'm not asking for anything, Mom. You decided what you wanted, and so did I. You've already shown me where I stand, so don't count on me to keep solving your problems." The silence on the other end of the line weighed more than anything she could have said. For a while, we both remained silent until she finally spoke. "Please come home. We should talk face to face." I felt the pressure of her words wrapping around me. A part of me wanted to give in, go back and fix everything, but I couldn't. Not while I was still so hurt. Not when everything felt like a trap. "I'll think about it," I replied, and hung up. That conversation had shaken me, but I wasn't going to let it change my decision. I was tired of always being the one who cared the most. No, it was their turn to take responsibility. The next day, the phone vibrated again. A new message from my mother, this time one that hit me harder. "I've talked to Mateo. He's hurt too. He says he never asked for this. He's just doing what we told him to do. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. Mateo hurt? Was it real? My brother and I were never close. We hadn't connected in years. He had always been the favorite, the one who never did anything wrong, and now suddenly he was hurt? I didn't know whether to believe it or if it was just another attempt to make me give in. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. I threw my phone aside, more confused than in all the previous weeks. My thoughts were swirling, trying to understand if there was any truth in her words. Mateo affected? I couldn't even imagine it. That same afternoon, I went for a long walk. I needed to clear my head. The sun was hanging low, casting long shadows on the pavement, but I didn't feel its warmth. My thoughts were cold, swirling like a storm I couldn't stop. Then another message arrived, but it wasn't from my mother. It was from Mateo. Iker, can we talk? I stopped dead in my tracks. The phone vibrated as if pulling me towards it. My heart started racing again, though I didn't understand why. A part of me wanted to ignore it, let the silence continue, but another part wondered if this was the moment I had been waiting for. What if Mateo really felt bad? What if he didn't agree with the way our parents had treated me? So, even though I wasn't sure if it was a good idea, I replied quickly, "What do you want to say?" His answer came immediately. "I don't want to argue. Can we meet and fix this?" I held my finger over the screen, hesitating. Could I really trust him? Could we really talk without everything falling apart? I kept walking. Each step gave me a little more calm. I looked at the phone. I felt like I was about to make a huge decision, something that could change everything. Then another message arrived. It's not just about the will, Iker. It's about everything. I think they've treated you unfairly, and I'm sorry. Those were the words I had waited so long to hear. But ironically, now everything seemed even more difficult. What was I supposed to do? See him? Take the risk? Was this a turning point or just more pain waiting for me? I stood still, staring at the screen. My thoughts raced out of control. Everything felt like it was about to change, but I didn't know in which direction. I remained motionless, gripping the phone tightly, feeling the weight of Mateo's message sink into me. A storm of emotions swirled inside me, but deep down, I felt a deep need to finally speak my truth, to reclaim my voice. I looked at his message a few more moments, then I replied, trying to remain calm even though I was full of emotion inside. Okay, let's meet. But I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. A few minutes later, Mateo sent the details, a nearby coffee shop we used to go to as kids. It was close to where I lived, but instead of feeling warmth or nostalgia, I felt nervous. What if it was all another trap? What if he just wanted to blame me for standing up for myself? I pushed those fears away. This wasn't about shame. It was about justice. It was about standing my ground. I refused to be controlled anymore. I arrived at the coffee shop, El Olivo, ahead of schedule, trying to calm my thoughts. The place was quiet, with golden light streaming through the windows. I chose a seat in the back and started drumming my fingers nervously on the table. Time seemed to pass slowly, but I didn't look at my phone. I wasn't going to obsess over the time. Now I was in charge, not them. Finally, Mateo arrived. He looked different, calmer. He wasn't the arrogant favorite brother I had known for years, but someone tired, someone carrying something heavy. I could see it in his face, in his posture. He was no longer the villain. He looked like someone trapped too. I gestured for him to sit down. He dragged the chair slowly and began to speak. Iker, he said, his voice lower than I had ever heard it. I'm sorry. I didn't know how bad you were. I didn't understand, at least not until recently. I nodded slightly, although my head was spinning inside. This was the moment I had to stand firm. I couldn't let emotion win. You didn't know, or you just didn't care? I asked, my tone strong and clear. You always had it easy. You never had to fight, and I was the one who had to carry everything. Always behind, always forgotten. His cheeks flushed, and I knew he was ashamed. I never saw it that way, Iker. But I understand now. They didn't value you, and I I never stepped in to help you. I looked at him in silence, trying to figure out if he was really telling the truth. His voice sounded sincere, but that didn't erase the past. It didn't heal the pain. You're right. You never helped. Neither you, nor Mom, nor Dad, I said. Then I looked him directly in the eyes. But you know what? It's over. Giving everything is over. Cleaning up everyone else's messes is over. Now I'm going to take charge of my life. Mateo looked at me, confused. What are you saying? I took a deep breath and released the truth. I stopped paying. I'm not sending them anything anymore. I haven't paid a single bill since I found out about their decision. Not electricity, not water, not heating. If they want to be comfortable, they can manage it themselves. His face turned pale. You can't be serious. They're going to be angry. They're already angry, I interrupted him, but this time it's not my problem. I'm tired of being ignored. If they want help, they should treat me with respect. If not, they can face the consequences. Mateo leaned back in his chair, shocked. Are you really doing this? Yes, I replied firmly. My words left no room for doubt. And if you want to keep looking good with them, that's up to you. But I'm not going to be the good son anymore. I'm not going to let them use me anymore. We sat in silence for a few seconds. My words hung in the air like a heavy burden. Finally, Mateo broke the silence, speaking softly. I'm not sure I can do that, Iker. I'm still trying to understand where I fit into all of this. I nodded. I understand. But listen, this isn't just about the money. It's about being strong. It's about not letting them control your life anymore. You've let them write your story for too long. Now it's time to change that. Mateo looked down, unsure what to say. I could tell he was struggling to process everything I had said. But that didn't matter anymore because this moment wasn't about him. It was about me. I got up from the chair. I felt a surge of courage coursing through me. I've made up my mind, Mateo. Now you have to decide for yourself. But I'm not going back to fix their problems. Not this time. After saying that, I turned and walked out of El Olivo, leaving Mateo sitting there, lost in his thoughts. My heart was pounding, but an unexpected calmness washed over me. I had done what I needed to do. I had finally taken control of my decisions. No more guilt. No more control. It felt powerful. It felt right. As I walked home, my phone vibrated again. Another message, this time from my mother. Iker, why don't we have electricity? What's going on? You have to take care of this. We're your family. We can't live like this. I read the message and a small smile crept onto my face. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I turned off my phone and slipped it into my jacket pocket. It was over. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I could breathe. The following days were chaotic. I felt the pressure mounting with every call, every message, every little reproach disguised as concern. But I didn't budge. I stood firm. They tried everything, from emotional blackmail to offering me old dreams that no longer mattered to me. One night, 7 days after I had spoken to Mateo, a message arrived. It wasn't from him. It was my mother again, her words more desperate than ever. Iker, we have to talk. We can't go on like this. Your father and I could lose the house if you don't help us. Please. I could feel the rage rising in my chest. It tightened. I took a deep breath, but this time I wasn't going to let their games drag me down. Not anymore. I opened my phone and wrote a short, firm message. I'm sorry you're going through this, but I'm not here to save you anymore. You had many opportunities to act differently and you didn't. It's over. I hesitated for a moment before sending it. My fingers hovered over the screen, but I had already made my decision. I pressed send. The phone remained silent for a long time. The next day, I found out that my parents had contacted Mateo. They begged him to talk to me, to convince me to help them. But he didn't. Not this time. Instead, he was the one who wrote to me first. Hey, I think you made the right decision, but it's tough. It seems like everyone is losing something. I didn't know how to answer him. But deep down, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I wasn't losing anything they hadn't already taken from me a long time ago. The only difference now was that I was in charge. I wasn't the one who always had to fix everything. Another week passed. Their house was still without electricity, and I didn't care. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't feel like I had to justify my actions. I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. For the first time in many years, I felt truly free. I didn't have to carry the weight of their needs anymore. I didn't feel like I had to sacrifice my happiness for theirs. I don't know for sure what became of them after that. Maybe they found some last-minute way to pay their bills, like they always do when everything falls apart. But this time, I wasn't part of the plan, and that gave me peace. So here I am. I don't regret what I did, not one bit. Yes, it was painful at times. I wondered if I was being selfish, if I was wrong. But it turned out to be the smartest decision I've ever made in my life. This is my path, my decisions, my future. And for the first time in my life, I chose to think of myself.